Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge. The final race of round 3 coming your way. PCA Sim Racing, of course, presented all season long by Hagerty. This Pro Class race presented by Porsche, live from iRacing's Virtual Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Shane Spike, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Taylor Burris, Rachel Whiteford, Ryan Bauer, our producer. Cameras from Dougie Beard, and action coming your way from the best of the best in PCA Sim Racing from Road America to cap off our Friday night of racing. And it seems like it just gets better with each passing race, Taylor Burris, but this is very much a game of stop Michael Polisek if you happen to be in this group. Polisek decided to abstain from racing in the first round of this Zone Group Challenge, so he is not automatically qualified into April's championship races. He's got to race his way in, but having himself a pretty impressive run, 2 for 2 to start off the season. I don't think he's going to complain.
He certainly is not right now, and he was the fastest in practice, and now is the fastest in qualifying, setting a 158.33. Of course, we had at least 4 drivers go into the 158 bracket. Of course, for our Michael Polisek, he was almost a second faster than the car that was next in line during the practice with a 158.97 compared to Michael's 158.01. So Michael Polisek is probably going to be the one to beat once again here tonight at Road America. We'll see how the rest of the field is able to work their way through.
Polisek versus the field. He's a full 0.7 of a second faster than the next man in qualifying, Josh Vieira. And Polisek, he wouldn't just about outright lock down a spot in the Zone Group Challenge Championship with the victory tonight, but it would be awfully difficult for him to lose a spot if, in fact, it pans out this way. Is Polisek, Jason Stanley, and Todd Panic, that trio, who are the 3 that enter this race as the 3 that will qualify, Rachel. But, of course, anything can change.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think you are right. It's a good chance. It's in his court, shall we say, to play off the basketball you've been talking about all night. The ball is well and truly in his court to lock himself or to not lock himself. And if he drives out the other people who have led off the pole in this race this evening, I think it's a good likelihood, but we'll not give him the commentator's curse, and we'll see how it goes, of course, but we've got to make it through turn 1.
The key is to make sure that you don't crack under pressure and don't split open like a nut like a certain team did earlier today, and didn't have a great showing per se, but we'll leave them nameless. The folks in chat probably are smart enough to know who exactly we're talking about. I have too much respect for their support to call them out by name, but they know who they are. As we watch Jacob Schum coming in, Zone 3, Carolina's region driver. He and his son Jonathan both racing in the Pro Class throughout PCA Sim Racing, and so we keep our eyes peeled and see just how well things go for them as Jacob works his way around the track to try and complete his laps in qualifying. Michael Polisek trying to squeeze out a little bit more time. He's still about 7/10 faster than the next man on track behind him. Another Zone 5er, because we keep talking about them, it seems like every other second we turn, but Chris Pye is currently second on the qualifying order.
Yeah, Christopher Pye is currently in that second spot, just barely beating the Rafael Amorim for that second spot right now as they work their way through. He's currently P3 at the moment for Rafael. As you're on board with him, as he heads towards the kink. Of course, Rafael, another one of those strong contenders here in the PCA Sim Racing Series from the Peach State region. So one of those Georgia drivers here racing his. Joshua Vieira from the Potomac region's coming through in the 4th position. He's been having quite a interesting season so far, seeing if he can have a good start to the finish. Or for the
Josh
start of the race.
Who won the Pro Class when we went to Watkins Glen in Series 5 last fall. He should be a contender. Chris Braun out of the Northeast region, the Tiger Machine, the Superflow car, Joe Stifford out of the Chicago region from Zone 13, currently 12th on the board, trying to improve his lap time ever so slightly. Richard Frank out of the Potomac region. We flip back to Vieira and just wheel it around and see who all decides to make an appearance here.
It's going to be interesting, I think, and again, we can't really judge this class based on what's happened with the others before because they've sometimes been very different, but sometimes it's been exactly the same. So it's always hard to tell. And we have some major players in this race, so it's going to be interesting to see how they actually pan out with this, because so far, the 3 tracks we've been to have all been drastically different, and this is no difference.
Before we go racing in this Pro Class tonight, we remind you that coverage of the Pro Class for the PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge is brought to you by our friends at Porsche. More than a sports car, a way of life for all of us associated with the PCA, and their support of PCA Sim Racing as the presenting partner for the Pro Class is appreciated. With a recent sub-7-minute lap at the Nürburgring, the new GT3 machine, and the arrival of the all-new 992 GT3 Cup car to the United States as we get the Porsche Carrera Cup North America for the first time ever, starting this weekend in real life at Sebring. Porsche's dedication to motorsports is stronger than ever, and you can find out more about Porsche at www.porsche.com. Just about time to bring you the starting grid for this final race of the evening. This, of course, the Pro Class for Porsche Club of America Sim Racing, coming your way from iRacing's virtual Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, getting set for action where, surprise, surprise, guess who is going to lead the field to green? None other than the number 45 machine, Michael Polisek for Lone Wolf Motorsports for the 158.336 to lock down the top spot. He is not qualified for the Zone Group Challenge Championship in April, but Chris Pies, Rafael Amarim, Josh Vieira, and Leif Peterson are, and they all start second, third, fourth, and fifth, respectively. Todd Panic will start second amongst the non-qualified drivers in sixth overall. Seventh on the grid goes to Chris Braun. The third man who will start on the grid out of the non-qualified drivers. Eighth overall is Liam Ranzitas. Joe Stiffel in ninth, and James Hugh to round out the top 10 Taylor.
Starting in the 11th position will be Jacob Schoon, followed by Mark Huth in the 12th position. Jason Stanley from Zone 5 will be starting in 13th, followed by Rick Reisenberg in 14th. Christian Robb will be starting in the 15th position, followed by Trey Drawhorn in 16th. Richard Franco 17th, 18th Gabriel Albano, and 19th Stephen Chen.
There's your full field rundown. Let's take a look at where we are and what sort of track we're dealing with this evening. This is Road America, of course. It's a 4.048 mile, 6.515 kilometer circuit with 14 turns that opened in 1955. We go for 30 minutes plus one lap of action here at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Temps the same as they ever were. Instant time the same as it's been. April 2nd, 2021, 9:30 a.m. local time. Air temp 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds to the north at 2 miles an hour. Humidity of 28%. And plenty of action to come your way in just a moment. Rachel Whiteford, how excited are you for this final race of the evening?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm Chinese takeout. That is how excited I am. That makes no sense to everybody else, but it's 3 a.m. here, and I'm on my 5th coffee, so it made perfect sense to me. Incredibly excited.
If it's 3 a.m., is it also raining over there, Rachel?
No.
Okay. Just given the time, given the time, I just had to double check. Because usually that happens. Especially when it comes to Podium Esports broadcast references that we make, it usually is raining when it's 3 a.m. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on Michael Polisek and company as they come up the hill and get set to bring us the green flag for our final race of the evening. It is the Pro Class presented by Porsche for round 3 of the Zone Group Challenge for PCA Sim Racing. Michael Polisek gets on the gas pedal, and we are underway with the Pro Class from Road America. They take off. Good run for Polisek. Chris Pies is to his outside, and this should be a pretty orderly 2x2 race going into the corner and off into turn 1. It's a big sin that they'll take. Everybody on the brakes quickly. Polisek catches the edge very briefly, and Chris Pies is going to get to the front, I think, before we get to 3. He tried to clear him, but couldn't quite do it. Polisek's going to have the run on the inside, and they will be wheel to wheel coming down the long straightaway and heading off towards turn 5 for the first time.
Look at Christopher Pies trying to put on a good show. He's going to get help from Joshua Vieira as they'll go side by side. We'll see Pies has the inside advantage for turn number 5. Michael Polisek tries to outbrake him, but Pies still has the inside lane advantage. Still will have the inside lane advantage as they come out of turn number 5, heading up to turn 6. Pies has a nose over Polosek as they enter turn 6, still side by side as they come out of turn 6. Pies will pull the slide drop and move into the race lead.
His track is just too narrow to go door to door for that long, and I think even Michael Polosek knows that, so he's going to try and get behind Chris Pies and match him on pace and wait for his opportunity to get after Pies at some point. But Chris Pies with plenty of speed early. The Imperial Motorsport Porsche 911 looking very solid. His Polosek, I think, caught the grass a little bit on the apex of the carousel. Didn't quite get the best run through the center of it, but a decent run off the corner as he tries to run down Pies, and Vieira, just behind Polosek, tries to hold off Rafael Amarin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really pushing close here, and that 2x2 by the leaders for so many corners, it really bottled this field up early on, which has allowed a lot of racing. If we look a little bit further back towards Leaf Patterson and Vieira and Amarim, it's all contact. Commentator's curse, 3-car contact. Big incident there in Canada, and they hopefully stay off the racing line just.
Big moment there. It's Leif Peterson and some contact with Rafael Amarim and Josh Vieira too, and these were almost separate incidents to some degree. Vieira did not expect Amarim to his inside, and Amarim then checked up, and Peterson took advantage of the gap and then ran right over the wheel well of Amarim's machine, and all three of them end up with damage and in the fence. So unfortunate for sure, but just wild racing all the same. But a tough break from Peterson and Amarim, in particular the champion of this class in Series 5, with damage early. And Vieira, although he managed to catch the ball on the outside a little bit, certainly better off than Peterson and Amarim, as Pies and Polosek now have a lead of about 3 seconds on the man who runs in third. That's Todd Panic.
Here they go down into turn number 5. Polosek trying to see if he can find a way around Christopher Pies. Of course, Mr. Chip probably trying to keep an eye on him behind to see if he can help Christopher Pies. As we have the battle for P3 right now, as Todd Panic trying to hold off Radzitas. Panic will have the inside lane over Radzitas as they come off turn 6. Radzitas still has a nose. He'll have the advantage as they go into turn number 7. And Panic will let Radzitas go by as Chris Braun watches on.
Plenty of reason for these two to fight each other because they are fighting 4 points in the qualification ladder to the Zone Group Challenge Championship. So that's not only for overall position, but that's for non-qualified driver position as well. Although, they only have to worry about Jason Stanley behind them, so these three could lock together, work together, and claim a podium pretty easily if they wanted to. Because Stanley is back at 8th. He's maybe about, call it 3 seconds back of this action, as you see Chris Braun look to the outside of the inside rather of Todd Panic, and will make the move before they even get to Canada corner. So Braun trying to get there, but Panic looked to the inside. He had a dive to try and get Chris Braun back. Couldn't quite get to it though, so Braun will go and jump up ahead. Panic then up into P5. James Hughes back to 6. Stifel and then Jason Stanley right in the middle of all that in 8th overall at this time. He may be the one we need to watch, because if any of these drivers that aren't already qualified have incidents, Stanley is the one who stands to benefit.
Absolutely, and you could say that was a panic move into Canada. It wasn't ever really going to work. It was too far back, and right now he's looking for as many opportunities as he can to try and find some more track room here, because he's kind of trying to defend from behind there from Huth and Stifel. They're really close here, and I think this could definitely be a position change.
If we get more puns like that, I'm going to panic at my own ability to keep my brain cells, because woof. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better as we go on, but as it stands, it's Pies and Polosek who are nose to tail, and Polosek has not let Chris Pies go. We'll wait and see if there's any change amongst that over the next 5 laps or so, but that has all the makings of a classic mano-a-mano duel at the front of this field. As Chris Braun has just cleared Todd Panic, but if you count the line here, look at this snake, maybe off the rear wing of Chris Braun if we can get it. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 cars all within a training. You can see all of them here in the shot. Perfect view here looking off of Braun and even Liam Radzitas, but all of them right on top of one another. And for as many times as we've seen the club class do that, Taylor, this is even tighter than what we've seen with them.
It certainly is there, James. I mean, looking at the field right now, these drivers from 4th on back are within less than a second. You can probably go from driver of Chris Braun all the way down to Jacob Schum, who are just lined up nose to tail, waiting to try to leapfrog past their competitors in order to try to get one more position over the rest of the field and try to have a good finish here. As we see one close battle right there up in front of the field as they enter Canada corner. That was between James Hughes, Joe Stiffel, and Todd Panic as they now work their way through Thunder Valley.
So Panic is the one who sort of controls this group. Braun's beginning to gap him a little bit. I'll be curious to see what lap times look like as they come across the stripe, because Braun has considerably opened that gap between the rear wing of his machine and the front bumper of Panic's. As they cross the stripe here to complete this third lap, Braun was a 2-minute flat .583. Panic was a 2-minute flat .7. So 0.2 of a difference between Braun and Panic, which is not a lot, in fairness, for sure. And everybody behind Todd Panic was pretty much in the same ballpark. It was 2 minutes 7/10, 2 minutes 8/10 for everybody in that mix. But still, you're waiting for the very microscopic slight changes in movement and direction and ways you enter and exit these corners that can create the difference and maybe either give you an opportunity to make something happen or allow you to make the mistake that shuts the door on your chances to carry a top 5 out of Road America.
Yes, certainly is, of course, and the top 5 is what this battle's going to be for here. Todd Panic's kind of in that hot seat there. Chris Braun, of course, is still in this fight, as is Liam Brzezinski's front there in 3rd place right now overall, but Todd Panic's really the driver here because he's going to put the pressure on Braun, and who, of course, is going to be attacking him from behind. So this is where the seat of the battle really is, rather than in front with Chris Braun leading that train. He's kind of just got to worry about defending. The real fight sits just behind him. And there's a lot of guys here thinking they could make some space if someone puts a foot wrong.
And the person with the most to lose, no question, is Todd Panic. As we'll take a look here, Michael Paulus going on board with the driver in P2, who has lost a little bit of time to Chris Pies, and we'll see where the incident comes and how nuts it was, and almost a wild incident that's out of turn 7 in the hurry downs, and it wasn't a great run through there. And then same issue, looks like he overshot turn 8 because he missed the exit of turn 7 as well. So almost 2 incidents there back-to-back for Michael Polisek, which allows Chris Byers to stretch out his lead from maybe 0.3 of a second to about 8. There's the first incident there that you see him bobble out of turn 7, and then it was a late breakdown into 8. He locked it up, and it was tough to get him stopped up all the way.
Certainly was there, James, as now he is about 0.6 of a second back from Michael or from Christopher Pies right now, as those two are still battling for the race lead as they enter into turn number 3 ahead of the rest of the field by over 5.5 seconds as Liam Rositas leads that train of cars as they come off turn 3 heading down the Moraine Sweep.
Potentially so. Back to this main group, though. Todd Panic is the one that has the most to lose, and we say that in particular because he's the one of this group that is the non-qualified driver. Liam Rositas has started to walk away from this bunch. It's 1.3 seconds from Rositas to Chris Braun in 4th, but Panic is 5th, or rather, yes, 5th overall, but 3rd amongst the drivers who have not already qualified. So if there's anybody who needs to avoid an incident in this group, Todd Panic absolutely is the driver.
Yeah, no, Todd Panic really is, and like I said, he's the glue in this whole grouping here. It really kind of throws this one into how it's going to play out. I mentioned earlier that he's the kind of the key in this fight. What happens to him will affect that whole group there, and it's going to really define how we're looking at this race with this thing, because we've got a lot of people around that area that are not checked in, and that will make a difference, of course. And Polisek at the front, he's still trying to find a way back past Pies, although we've not seen the big gap we saw last time.
Not the biggest of gaps, as you see Pies there. Polisek's wheeling back in a little bit. It's down to 0.6 of a second from the full second that it was a few laps ago. But still work to do, and we know how quick he is. As here comes Todd Panic to the outside, and rather inside of Chris Braun. Braun overshot the entry to Canada corner and lost the spot not only to Panic, but to James Huth as well. So Panic to 4th, Huth to 5th, and Braun back to 6th overall.
James Houston at number 12 now trying to see if he can work his way up through the field to get around Todd Panic as they come down the front straightaway. He gets a good bit of momentum with the draft as he tries to close in car lane, tap the car lane. He tucks out to the inside, then ducks back underneath to try to get that pull. Will he duck in? No, he's going to stay single file as they go through turn number 1 right now. Tries to get a good launch off turn 1. Can't quite get close enough as they go through turn 2. And entering turn 3, we see those two still nose to tail as Chris Braun almost gets into the back bumper a little bit. See if they can get a good run and propel themselves down the Marine sweep.
Through the Marine sweep they go off to turn 5, and we'll see whether or not Panic can maintain the track position that he was just gifted courtesy of Braun's mistake. Panic will lead this group in there. Pretty stable run, maybe not necessarily the best of runs. He came off the edge and came off the curbing there, and you saw just in that shot how much James Hughes managed to gain on Panic on entry to that corner. It was maybe 2 or 3 car lengths that he picked up in that particular portion of the corner, or rather circuit alone, so that could get very intriguing very quickly if James Hughes can start clicking off these braking zones in particular.
Yeah, the key to Road America is the braking zones, because they set you up for all the sections that are just after them. We have Canada, of course, which leads you to a really twisty section there before the start-finish line. We have turn 3, because technically it's not turn 2 at the bottom of the hill after the start, it's turn 3 because that little kink counts as a corner in Road America's mind. And turn 5, of course, those all being critical to the follow-on sections, and you have to get them right.
Everybody clean through Canada corner for the most part, as Joe Stifel had a look there and is trying to get around Chris Braun, but just didn't quite have it. Didn't quite make the move well enough, but this is a really good fight between these two. Stifel, I think, may have the pace on Braun, who I wonder if Braun may have used up his tires a little bit too much in the early part of this run, and if he hasn't saved enough, and if he's already suffering from tire wear, in which case this should be Joe Stifel's spot sooner rather than later. Stifel will look to the inside. The turn 1 won't quite be there at this point in the lap, but maybe turn 5, Taylor Burris, perhaps?
We could possibly see a good pass for turn 5. Let's watch and see what Polasek will do. He's not close enough to get a good run just yet. He's now got it down to a car lane. Now half a car lane. He'll look to the inside, tries to send it in. Christopher Paiza will shut through a little brake lock-up. That allows Polasek the chance to get to the inside. Here they go up the hill into turn number 6. Polasek still has that inside advantage, but Christopher Paiza will shut the door on him once again. Mr. Chip, the spotter now here, giving some good pointers to Christopher Paiza as they go through turn number 7 out of there, heading down the hurry downs into turn 8.
And to be fair, for those who aren't aware, Chris Paiza, yes, has a pet bird, a pet cockatiel, I believe, Mr. Chip, that happens to be atop the box for him in most races, and is part of the character that he is. Racing lawyer as well, does a lot of club racing with the GT4 Caymans over the weekends, but the Imperial Motorsport driver also streaming on Twitch at points as well. He's done a lot of stuff, and is certainly one of the most active members, I think, in regards to drivers in PCA sim racing who do things both inside and outside the community. He's plenty involved in a lot of different spots, and plenty fast too. We saw it when he won a few bits ago in Series 5.
Well, unfortunately, I was there for Series 5, but I'm sure you can tell me all about it.
Got the victory at Barber Motorsport Park. He did, as we keep our eyes on Liam Radzitis. Paiza is still ahead of Polasek by half a second. It's only maybe 7 or 8 car lengths on track, but it's enough, I believe, to make a difference as Radzitis is back of that battle by about 7 seconds, and then Todd Panic back of Radzitis by 1.3. Then another second back to James Hughes, Jacob Schum, and company. So Chris Braun must have had a moment, which we missed, I think, because Braun was there and then couldn't quite get it done. And we'll take a look and see if we can figure out what happened. And there was a moment at Edover in turn 5 between Braun and Joe Stifel, as Stifel got to tried to get to the inside of Braun and just didn't get on the brakes in time, and ends up looping Braun around and then looped himself around, and ended up making a huge mess of it. You'll see it here on your screen. Says Braun ends up in trouble. Stifel will go to the inside, then to the outside, then just get into him right on corner entry, and then get clipped himself. And it also caught Jacob Schum, who didn't really have anywhere to go, so there was carnage all over the place, and it allowed for a few drivers to lose spots. Also stuck in that one was Jason Stanley, who lost a position to Christian Rava. So a lot of chaos there towards the back, and it absolutely shuffled everything up because remember, Vaughn had been about 5th or 6th only a few laps ago, and then all of a sudden he jumps in, and now we have a shuffle in order. And let's cover the shuffle in order, courtesy of our final mid-race report of the evening, which is brought to you by our friends at Porsche. Still, Christopher Pye's in control of this by not much. 0.3 of a second now. Michael Polasek is making his charge out of the northern New Jersey region. Polasek the fastest amongst the non-qualified drivers, so he will try and get Pies for the position and for the race lead as Polasek runs in second. Third is Liam Ranzitis out of the Upper Canada region, and he too, like Polasek, declined to run the opening stints of this competition, so he has to race his way into the championship next month. Todd Panic out of the Pacific Northwest region, also in the boat of non-qualified drivers who needs to have a good run. He's 4th overall. James Hugh out of the Hudson Champlain region is racing in April. We know that for sure. He is 5th as it stands. 6th in the running order is Jacob Shum out of the Carolinas region, a Zone 3 driver, and certainly not one to miss with the multicolored scheme and the black, the neon. Nice contrast on that one. Looking off the nose in the hood of Mark Youth there, brother to James, and out of the St. Louis region. He's a Zone 10 driver. He's racing in the championship in April, currently running 7th overall. 8th belongs to the number 88, as is his tradition, Christian Rava. Out of the Suncoast, Florida region, the Zone 12 driver, currently running in the top 10 after the incident between Stifel and company. 9th now belongs to Rick Reisenberg after that incident out of the Diablo region. Zone 7 Northern California driver, 9th overall on the board, and 10th overall, the number 1 machine of Jason Stanley, a Zone 5 driver out of the Lone Star region, one of the powerhouse zones of PCA, flexing their muscle between E and leader Chris Pies tonight.
In the 11th position, you'll find Chris Braun. Remember, he got involved in that early incident a few laps ago with Joe Stifel. He's currently coming from the Northeast region, car 258, trying to see if he can rebound his way into the top 10. In 12th position, Gabriel Albano sits in 12th, car 131 from the Gold Coast region, of course, having to try to get a good run through here as he comes his way through the carousel in the 12th position. 13th, you'll find Richard Franco in the 13 car. So he's from the Potomac region, Zone 2, as he works his way through the carousel, trying to see if he can work his way up through the field. 14th is a kind of a surprise. The Maverick region driver of Leif Peterson, Mr. Consistency, not having a good run right now in the 14th position, trying to see if he can recover nicely as he sees his way through the carousel. Not about a second back, you'll find Trey Drawhorn from the Chicago region, a fan favorite here in the PCA in car 395. He's trying to see if he can run down Leif Peterson for 14th. Rafael Amorin, remember, was caught up in that early incident here in the early going. He's from the Peach State region, trying to see if he can recover, but it's going to be a tall order for him in 16th, car number 18. 17th is a 75 in the Track Money Porsche of Joshua Vieira. He's having to work his way up through the field from the Potomac region, as he's pretty much by himself trying to hold on. 18th is the 003 of Joe Stifel. He is the first car 1 lap down after getting involved in one of the incidences a few laps ago with Chris Braun. Stephen Chen rounds out your 19 car field.
And that concludes your mid-race report, which is brought to you this evening by Porsche. As Polasek has got the lead down to 0.3 of a second, we will keep our eye on that, because this is best of the best in PCA sim racing. Pies vs. Polasek is about as A-list headline as you are going to get with this group. So to some degree, no surprise then that we're seeing these two fight it out well. The bigger question is, where are the battles behind this group? And the answer, honestly, wouldn't necessarily think about it. How about Jacob Shum, Mark Hughes, 6th and 7th? Out of those drivers who were running in a line that were within less than a second of one another earlier in this race, it's Shum and Hughes who have managed to sort of keep that trend going. Everybody else is spread out, but it's P6, P7 that are currently racing for the best battle on track at the moment outside of your race leaders.
Yes, it is, of course. The race leaders are going for it here, but we're definitely seeing some other cars trying to get towards each other. It has spread out considerably more than other rounds, I think, with the speed difference here being, I think, slightly more dramatic. But yeah, we do, of course, have Huth and Shum, those two going for it, but Polasek has stayed the closest of any car in the field. I do think we might see a lead change before the end of this thing, but I'm not sure. He's really, really trying.
trying as best he can, and it's down to 1 and then up to 3. It's gonna be close. It's going to be close. There's just no way to get around it. It's going to be very tight between Polasek and Chris Pais the rest of the way unless one of them makes a mistake. And this is, again, yet another litmus test where we're seeing the maturation of Michael Polasek as a driver on the sim right before our eyes. You remember how wild it used to be in season 1, 2, 3, where you could see the pace, but you could see the mistakes, and then it all came together here at Road America in Series 4. We talked about it at the end of our broadcast last week when we were chatting with him and how this is the track that he won his Pro Class Championship at back in the spring. And Michael Polasek, I think, would love nothing more than to come back to the place that made it all happen for him and go to victory lane once again. But he's got a very, very tall task in Chris Pines to get around just in front of him. And it is so close to him. It is a very much carrot on the string at this point, but hasn't been able to get it just yet.
No, he certainly has not. In fact, both of them have been running pretty much consistent lap times. Polasek was actually a little bit faster, about a little less than a tenth faster than Christopher Pais last time around, but they really ran almost identical lap times as far as fastest laps of the race so far as they work their way over into Canada Corner. We still see Christopher Pais try to hold on, and I think the thing is Polasek made that small little bit of mistake where he was not really able to close the gap and hold the inside lane or outside lane to be able to propel his way past Christopher Pais, which is tough to do in the beginning. So that's why he let him go, to see if he can try to run him down. But we'll have to see what he can do in these final minutes.
How tight does this get? How close does this get? How wild does this get for Pais and Polasek in the final few minutes of this race? We'll keep an eye on some of the other battles there. Trey Droll and Lee Peterson actually in a pretty good one for 14th and 15th. That's now the most competitive battle outside of Polasek and Pais. But this is sit back, watch the race lead, ride some onboards, and see how it all flies. And speaking of riding on onboards, maybe not a bad time here. We haven't done it all night, so let's see if we can line it up. We'll leave it to the drivers as they fight for this and show you the sights and the sounds of racing at Road America. Still, Chris Pye's in control, and Michael Polisek has been breathing down his neck the entirety of this race. After Pye's got the better start of the two and managed to jump ahead of him about halfway through the first lap. But now down to 3.5 minutes to go for Michael Polisek to figure out something, which means, in effect, maybe a lap and a half for Polisek to get this job done.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not got a lot of time, but he's going for the maximum corner there he could through 5 to try and gain a speed advantage up the hill towards the Corvette Bridge. And he's going to close in, but is it going to be enough here? It's really running out of time.
Will this be enough for Michael Polisek? Can he find any sort of gap whatsoever to try and get around Chris Pye's, or is Pye's good enough to nail down his lap times and get away from Polisek and pick up his first win in this Zone Group Challenge qualifying round? Of course, Pye's is already set to go. Certainly no worries for Pye's. We'll see him racing next month for sure. But to be able to beat Michael Polisek head-to-head is something that does not happen often in PCA sim racing, so, and especially in this car too, which Polisek has claimed is one of his favorites of the Porsche trio of cars that are available in iRacing at the moment. So you beat Polisek in his favorite of the Porsches, and that's a big deal, to say the least.
It certainly is, James. I mean, we've seen Polisek absolutely dominate the PCA when he has the chance, but he does make mistakes, just like any other driver does here on the iRacing service, and it looks like that mistake might cost him a chance to win here today at Road America, as we see Christopher Pye's now come up over the hill. Polisek tries to get a good tow from his draft as they go across the start-finish line here. Let's take a look at timing and scoring. 0.2 of a second separate the two drivers. Of course, Polisek about a tenth faster than Christopher Pye's last time around.
This is going to be really tight as to whether or not it's the last lap or we get one more lap after this. They crossed the line with 1:57 to go, and their last laps were 1:59. So it should be white flag, you think, but it's right within that range, Rachel, where we could get one lap, we could get two.
It could be. I mean, they're both pushing really hard right now, so it could be faster, but I don't think it's going to be 2 seconds faster. That would be asking a lot, I think, here, as he's looking to the outside. Is he going to go as wide as possible? He tucks it in.
Oh, contact! Oh. There goes Michael Polisek, who tried to cut off in front of Chris Pye's, and he tried to outbrake and get in front of Pye's and check him up, and just wasn't quite clear of Chris Pye's. So we'll take a look at that one more time, but that just about clears that battle out, and Polisek decided that the outside was his moment, tried to get clear of him, just wasn't clear enough. I figured that Polisek was going to try and break early and see if he could undercut Pye's, cross over the apex in 5, but he decided to try and outbreak him on the outside, and it didn't work for Michael Polisek, and Chris Pye's now just has to bring it home cleanly to get victory number 1.
He certainly does, as Christopher Pye's has now pulled a 3.5 second gap as he comes. Pye the kink right here, heads down through here, heading down into the final corner of Canada Corner here, as he's only just got, I believe this will be the white flag. He will get the checkered coming to it here as he comes through Canada Corner, nice and clean, all by himself. Flips the grass a little bit, but is able to keep it going.
This should be it, we think. Should be 2 seconds to the good to wrap this up, and as they come out of the final corner, we'll see whether or not timing and scoring decides to agree. Chris Pye's is good indeed, and there is the checkered flag for Christopher Pye's, who comes across the line. He and the Birdman, Mr. Chip, going to be going to victory lane in the Pro Class presented by Porsche, round 3 of the Zone Group Challenge, qualifying to Chris Pye's out of Zone 5. Texan goes to victory lane just ahead of Michael Polisek, who is tops amongst our non-qualified drivers. Looks like Todd Panic is going to get the job done. He and Liam Radzitis will complete a 2-3-4 overall podium for the non-qualified drivers, so it makes our job easy. We're just speaking to the top 4 drivers at the end of this, waiting for the last driver to come across the line and finish his lap. Richard Franco was just behind Chris Pye's, I think. And maybe, just maybe, Franco's got a little bit of work here. Not totally certain whether or not he's got a lap to complete, but we're waiting to see who needs to finish off their races or not, and who needs to be done. Rava's done, Braun's done, Reisenberg's done, Peterson and Trey Drawhorn with a great battle here towards the very end. Look at Trey Drawhorn getting around Lee Peterson for position on the final lap.
Yeah, really getting it going there. He's got time to go with this one still, so nice move there towards the end of this lap, and that should secure it for him, of course, as it's going to be tight, of course. He was actually ahead last time by, and Peterson got past him, but did he run wide at this time? He did. Leif Peterson coming back to the line, but it won't be enough.
Oh, how tight is that drag race? Give it to Trey Drawhorn by a hood length. It was so close there. He almost overdrove that final corner, Taylor Burris, but I think he'll take this.
I think he will too. A great job for him right there as Trey Drawhorn gets a 12th place finish. So a great performance after starting way towards the back half of the field and running in the back half. So a good run. Of course, Lee Peterson gave it everything that he got towards the end as well. As Richard Franco, the last car on the lead lap, coming up through Canada corner here for the final time, and he'll be our last car on the lead lap.
Completes all the drivers who need to come around and finish the race. Gives us a chance to run through the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished, which means that we are, oh, well, I take that back. Richard Franco did have to actually come around and finish the lap. I thought he may have been lapped at the very end there, but Richard Franco coming across the line now, and he will drive his Porsche underneath the flag stand. And now we can talk about what's coming up and talk about the final results of this Pro Class race in the PCA Sim Racing Zone Group Challenge. Round number 3, Pro Class, presented by Porsche, goes to Christopher Pies. Wins over Michael Polasek, Leo Rositas, and Todd Panek, who are the 3 top non-qualified drivers. So we'll talk to all 4 of them in just a few moments. James Hughes was 5th on the night, Jacob Shum 6th. 7th went to Mark Hughes. Christian Rava finished in the 8th spot with his number 88. Nice numerology there. Chris Braun finished in the 9th spot, and 10th went to Jason Stanley.
11th goes to Gabriel Albano, followed by Trey Drawhorn in 12th. Lee Peterson in the 13th position, followed by Rafael Amorin in 14th. Joshua Vieira in the 15th spot, followed by Richard Franco in 16th. Rick Reisenberg in 17th. Joe Stiffel 18th. Stephen Chen rounds out your 19-car field.
See if we can talk to some of these drivers in just a few moments. I figure it should be Michael Polasek that should be in line to go first. So we'll see if we can get Michael on here, the driver out of the northern New Jersey region, and see if we can get a word with him. And got Michael Polasek now in the booth with us. So Michael, that run up into turn 5, I figured just off of what we saw there, you have 2 options. You either have that outside outbreak that you tried to go for, or you've got the early break and the crossover on the apex to try and get around Chris Pies. So just take us through the decision-making process and what went into going for the outside as opposed to the inside.
Well, Chris is a really smart driver. He was playing really good defense the entire race, and I wasn't really able to find a way past. He also had the clean air through the corner, so he was constantly making up time through there. And I was slowly closing him down through the straight. So it was a very interesting battle. Come the final lap, though, I really only had one choice, was to try and outbrake him and hold him around the outside up until the corner after the Corvette bridge, because then I would have the inside, and that's a 1-line corner. So hopefully I was able to clear him then. But if I tried to do the cutback, he would have probably just parked it on the apex, and I would have had nowhere to go and check up, and he would have still had the position anyway. So unfortunately, I just lost on the brakes, and I turned into him, and I'm really sorry for that. That was just me being way too overconfident on the brakes.
So you figured that the better play is to go to the outside, and the better percentage play is to outbrake and hold, which makes sense when you step in and think about it. Still, though, another good finish. You're tops amongst the non-qualified drivers. It's not the win that you wanted here, but you're still in good position to make the Zone Group Challenge Championship, which is all you could ask for at the end of this.
Yeah, it's a good finish. Is a good finish either way. I would have really liked to get the win and go 3 for 3, but you got to take what you can get. And really well done to Chris. He drove a really good race, had a lot of pace, and had a lot of really good composure as well. And well done on taking that turn 1 fight in the turn 1 lead as well. That was an incredible side-by-side moment.
So we go from a track that certainly means a lot to you in your PCA Sim Racing history to one that I think everybody loves at PCA Sim Racing in terms of what it's done. The first ever track that we raced at. Sebring wraps up this qualifying round of the Zone Group Challenge next week. Expectations there?
Well, in the team racing series, I have I've been working on a pretty decent setup. I think I could still probably get a bit more out of it. So this week will probably be pretty much dedicated to trying to work that out, as well as getting my team ready for the Sebring 12-hour. I'll probably be running that in the Dallara LMP2 car rather than the GTE, so I'll have 2 cars to set up. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to bag another decent finish and get myself straight into the Zone Group Challenge Championships.
Make it an easy fight at the end of the day. Thank you so much for your time, Michael. Congratulations on your top finish amongst the non-qualified drivers. We'll see you in Sebring next Friday night.
Yep.
Michael Polisek finishes P2 overall, tops amongst the non-qualified drivers. Second in that group was the Upper Canada region's Liam Radzitis, who is with our Taylor Burris.
Here with Liam Radzitis coming home with a strong finish in 3rd overall as he works his way up through the field. And Liam, tell us about how your race went.
Well, I didn't have the most hopes. I think we started in 8th tonight, but I guess some of that lap one argy-bargy brought us back up to 3rd and was able to hold off Mr. Todd Panic for the rest of the race and take home a podium. Pretty happy about that.
Tell us, the fans and those who are listening, how difficult this track is racing here at Road America.
Well, compared to last week's, it's not that bad, but it's very tight. It's very technical in spots, and the big braking zones make it especially important to land your braking zones right. I was able to do that tonight, and that's what kept us, I think, in front of the 2 cars behind.
Well, as we look ahead to Sebring, your thoughts on going over there to try to put on a good performance?
Sebring, I like Sebring, so Sebring should be a good track for me, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, before we let you go, Liam, is there anyone you'd like to say thank you to?
Sure, so I'd like to say thank you to my family and friends who've watched on tonight. I'd like to thank the gentleman who posted the setup that I used tonight on Setups for iRacing. I don't know his name, but it was a lifesaver tonight. And yeah, that's mostly it.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you at the next round at Sebring. That is Liam Radzitis coming in 3rd in the PCA Pro Class.
Thank you.
Liam Radzitis was 3rd overall, second amongst the non-qualified drivers. The last of our non-qualified drivers, Todd Panic, is with Rachel Whiteford.
Absolutely is. Todd Panic here, coming home in 4th overall, but 3rd of the non-qualified drivers after starting 6th. Todd, very, very busy race between yourself and James Huth and a couple of others, but how was it for you? James, are you with us? Todd, are you with us? I don't think he is. Well, you know what? I'll answer for him.
Too excited to speak, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'll answer for him. Well, Rachel, I had a great race. The car was performing really, really well, and well, we managed to get out ahead of those guys and keep it in position. So really stoked for coming home with a 3rd today. Well, that's amazing, Todd. Thank you so much. And is.
Wait a second. You can't interview yourself. But I think the intriguing thing about Todd's race, hopefully we'll see if we can get him worked out in just a few moments. But for Todd, it was there we go. You see the replay on your screen, avoiding the Madison Canada corner that took out some of the drivers around him, the Joe Stiffles and the Lee Petersons and company, and just maintaining. Sort of like what we saw with Klaus Nielsen in the club class, where there were incidents ahead of him, and I don't necessarily know if Todd had the pace to go with some of these other drivers, but at the same time, you keep a car clean, even if you don't have the speed. If you don't make mistakes and don't put yourself in trouble, then end of the day, you end up in good shape, and you end up with the finish that he comes away with today. So... don't think we're going to get the chance to Todd Panic at the moment. We'll see if we can try him a little bit later, but for now, it's all about Chris Pies, who is going to go ahead and come in and join us, and we'll have a good bit of fun. Gonna have a lot of fun trying to get through all of our drivers. Chris Pies is now with us in the booth, and Chris, not the easiest thing to do ever when it is Michael Polisek, of all people, breathing down your neck. having to handle him for 30 minutes. What's that like for those of us who haven't had the experience of racing somebody like Michael?
Well, Michael's fast, and I mean, my whole strategy coming out when I qualified on the front row with him was keep it door to door in the first couple corners. My only chance was to get in front of him and maybe give him some dirty air, and that was how I was gonna. It played to my strategy. Just he'd been fast in practice, he was fast in qualifying. I knew if I got behind him, it was going to be really tough to keep up with him on pace. So I wanted to control the race from early on, and just kept him in my rearview mirror. When he made a move or moved on one side or the other, I made sure I positioned my car in a place where he was going to have to work if he wanted to get by me, and it worked out.
Tough move there over in turn 5 at the very end of that race. What did you see from your perspective on that one?
Well, I knew turn 5 was the corner that he seemed to always have speed on me. He seemed to get a really good run coming out of 2 down that long straight into 5, and every time he would get close, I knew I had to defend, and I declared my line pretty early on. In fact, right out of turn 2, I just stayed all the way on the left, and I basically said to him by positioning my car, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to go around the outside. And he surprised me at how far deep he went in, and if he could hold it, I was going to say, hey, more power to him. He's a hero, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I think he just overbroke himself coming out on the right side. So it was kind of unfortunate that it ended that way, but it was a lot of fun to battle for 30 straight minutes.
And then you come away with the victory here. A good tune-up, and it seems like you didn't necessarily want to get too warmed up too early, but you're going to take these last 2 races and really get into the groove of things in advance of the championship in April. So Sebring up next. What do you think we're going to see there?
Oh, Sebring's always a great track. I personally really like Sebring. I really enjoy the bumps, and I hope to have a pretty good race there. I feel like my skill level, I'm starting to come into the RSR. I've definitely improved over the past year driving this car, and hope to just keep building on it.
Well, Chris, to you, to Mr. Chip, to all your legions of fans on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel and the community, congratulations on tonight's victory here at Road America. Thanks so much for the time. We'll see you in Sebring next Friday night.
Thank you guys for everything you do. You make this an awesome broadcast. I appreciate it.
Chris Pye is your race winner tonight from Road America, and we will bring in one more driver, an extra bonus interview. Jason Stanley will join us. He also one of the top finishers amongst the non-qualified drivers. So we turn to Jason Stanley, and we'll see how his race went. We'll turn to Rachel Whiteford. He's got the mic ready to go, and we'll see what Jason has to offer us.
Absolutely. Jason Stanley, of course. We do actually have a change in that order. I believe, James, you can correct me here, but I believe he's second of the non-qualified drivers.
One of the non-qualified drivers. It was a good race, but still.
Yeah, it was a great race. Well, a very, very busy one for you, of course, Jason Stanley. The race overall seemed to be a lot about trying to find the track speed. How was it for you?
It was a bit of a struggle. I've struggled with some setup going into the race and qualifying, struggled with wing settings, trying to find the last little bit of pace. In practice, I was able to finally bust in the 59s and get down to the low 59s with a different setup. Unfortunately, that was a 5.5 wing on that setup that really didn't set me up well for the race. So I knew based on qualifying pace, I had to keep my eyes up for first lap shenanigans, which ended up happening, I think, down in Canada Corner. Made it through that pretty well, and then fell into a pack, which I'm sure all the guys ahead of me were running 4 wings because they were just walking me on the straight. A couple of them got into it going down into turn 5, and I just had to take evasive action around the outside, and that kind of put me back in the pack a little bit. So I just put my head down, trying to keep it clean for the rest of it. I had another great spotter, again, Ian Simon, helping me out with seeing who was around me that was qualified and unqualified. So I knew that there wasn't much to be gained by putting the car at risk and potentially hurting me in the order. So I just ran out the race to get some points for the overall challenge.
Absolutely, that's what it comes down to in the end, of course. And a clean race will often do you better than trying to go hardcore and making a mistake. So, good one from you there. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Thanks, Ian Simon, again for spotting. Josh Vera for putting up some good weekly hosted sessions and some setups, and just the whole Quarantine Cup group that we're doing a good job backing each other up with some data review throughout the week to help us prepare for these Friday night light shootouts.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and back to you, James.
Jason Stanley in here manages to put together a good race. And Taylor Burris, we'll come back to you first here and see what your thoughts are on a big night of racing here at Road America.
It gets very exciting with each and every class that works their way up through the field. We just saw that, and what a way to cap it off with two of the biggest names in the PCA going head-to-head, battling it out to the bitter end. And, of course, a lot of great victories we saw throughout the field today, and some very dominant ones as well, with drivers such as Robert Rose, Dave Craig, and Sindel as well having some great runs. So we look forward to seeing what they can do and who can survive the bumps at Sebring.
Sebring coming up next. One more race to find out which drivers are going to enter the Zone Group Challenge Championship. Rachel Whiteford, and it should be very entertaining, I think, to see how that pans out.
It certainly will be. Of course, Sebring, a very bumpy, technical track, so it should be an incredibly exciting, close race.
Should be a lot of fun. Before we sign off, we'll remind you of some of the broadcasts that are coming up in the world of Podium Esports over the course of the next week. And iRacing as well. Big week on the iRacing side of things. Lots of action to come your way. But before we get there, it'll be the MPI Cup Series from Dover International Speedway Sunday night, March 21st, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time start time on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. Then the Monday Night Racing season finale on Monday night, of course, March 22nd. We'll go on the air at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on the Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Podium YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll crown a champion, and we will have all of Adam Alexander, Larry McReynolds, and Daryl Waltrip from Fox Sports on the call for that race. Then we'll watch some of those same men get after it with the best of the best from real-life NASCAR. It's the eNASCAR Racing Pro Invitational Series season opener from the dirt track at Bristol Motor Speedway. Start time for that is 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday, March 24th on Fox Sports 1 on television in the United States, and available elsewhere through your local NASCAR television networks. Then, 9 p.m. Eastern, a little bit later that night, the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series goes to Williams Grove. See that broadcast on the Podium 2 Twitch channel, as well as the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages at 9 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night. The IndyCar iRacing Challenge continues with round 2 from Homestead, Miami at 6:30 p.m. next Thursday night on the iRacing Twitch channel and the IndyCar and iRacing Facebook and YouTube channels. And then the Zone Group Challenge is back for the conclusion of this qualifying round from Sebring International Raceway next Friday night, March 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time start on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel, the Podium 2 Twitch channel, Podium's Facebook and Twitter pages as well. For our team at Podium Esports, Doug Atkins, or rather the team at PCA Sim Racing, Doug Atkinson, Jim Hemming in the steering committee. Our team at Podium Esports, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scaramuza, John Theodore, tonight's producer, Ryan Bauer, our camera developer, Dougie Beard, and my colleagues in the booth, Rachel Whiteford and Taylor Burris. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of PCA Sim Racing, where the cars aren't real, but the racing is. This full season of PCA Sim Racing brought to you by Hagerty. The Pro Class tonight brought to you by Porsche, where Chris Pies is the last winner of the evening. One more race to go. We'll see you next Friday night from Sebring International Raceway to find out which 12 drivers will advance to the Zone Group Challenge Championship. Until then, good night.